My dreams come true.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 14 of the Weebology podcast. I am Ethan,
I am Ricky.
and today we have quite a special episode for you.
We were pretty jacked about this one because we were sitting down thinking like, what would be, good content, a solid app, a solid lesson for all you bright, aspiring weeb students. And we felt that we wanted to merge our pitcher ditch and our deep dive because I'm not going to speak for Ethan, but I feel like we really liked each of our suggestions to each other. We'll go deeper into that, but we wanted to
Actually,
really...
pause right there.
Okay.
Don't
yeah.
speak for me.
Oh, no. How dare
No,
you?
I'm kidding.
First of all, never speak for me in this
Yeah.
classroom ever again. I have my own thoughts and degree.
So this is a complete aside, but I've actually been in a meeting before where somebody, like a senior executive, was yelling at my manager, telling him, "Don't ever speak for me."
No way.
It was the most cringy thing, and I was sitting right next to the senior executive, and I'm like,
That's
dude.
insanely cringy. Did your manager deserve it?
No,
No, not
at
even a
all.
little bit?
It was out of the freaking blue.
That is, dude, he had just come off of like a hard night with the fam, and
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Does he seem like that vindictive kind of guy? Does he explode? I don't know how
He
often
explodes, but I have no clue why. Anyway, sorry for the aside. It was just like when I said that, I was like, I'm totally channeling the most cringy thing I've ever witnessed.
I cannot wait to speak for you in the future, and hopefully you just
Feel
explode. Yeah, and she turns into the new Weebstar hip hop, and we just start kicking each other's ass in this living room. But
AKA studio.
AKA the laboratory.
Yeah, sure. We're
in the lab. We're in the lab.
Cooking things in a crock pot and all that.
Uzis and everything.
So we previously did the pitcher ditch, and I pitched Fooly Cooly.
And
FLCl.
FLCL, and I pitched Made in Abyss.
And let me tell you, fam, he spoke for me earlier, and he was right. That was a great show,
And
I have a lot to talk about. I was kind of like, I wasn't live chatting to them, but near the end of the 12 episodes, I was like talking in our group saying, damn, I wish this would have happened, or this was sick, or blah, 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 blah. So we got a lot to talk about today. So that's why we kind of figured we're just going to do one massive episode of our pitcher ditch kind of, I keep thinking relapse in my head, but that doesn't sound right.
the relapse?
It can't be right.
No, so you're trying to think of a word about the second part of our pitcher ditch?
Yeah.
We've said many times we're not linguistics professors.
Linguistics.
We're not linguistes. We don't know what we're talking about when it comes
The
to
rebirth.
words. The rebirth. I don't know. We'll think of it. We'll take this whole episode. At the end of this episode, we'll come up with a word that this second half has to be. So
Perhaps.
I'm putting a lot on us
I've been
right now.
thinking of this for a while and still haven't gotten jack.
And you're
so-
still coming up blank.
Yeah. Like an absolute blank slate.
And all the books he has on his shelf, not one is a dictionary. Oh no.
Truth.
But the word we're looking for is probably in one of these dozens and dozens.
I'm
of
sure
books.
it is.
Yeah, if only we can read.
Oh, man.
If
only it was a manga panel.
If only it was a manga panel. All right, so what show do you want to do first? I'm good on either one.
I am too. I think let's do Fooly Cooly first.
Let's do Fooly Cooly. Okay.
Because it's the older one.
Yes,
It's,
it does get dibs, the proverbial dibs, because it did come first.
And it is batshit insane.
So yeah, if I'm being very upfront about my rating of Pitcher Ditch, it is a hardcore pitch with a caveat. It is not for the noob anime fan. It has a lot. Do you concur with that? Because it feels like it's real deep anime.
Yeah, so I'm first off going to say this is extreme spoiler land.
Yes, so Disclaimer now.
I've gotten some feedback that sometimes we don't disclaim it before we just go in and just hammer down some straight up Spoil City.
Right.
So just so you know, we're on Spoil Avenue.
Yes, and our 2 stops on that avenue is Fooly Cooly and Made in Abyss. I feel like if you haven't watched Fooly Cooly by now and you've been itching to do so, it's
YouTube.
It's 6 episodes, all on YouTube. You can crush it real easy. It came out in 2000.
I think it was like it
Earlier
was
than that?
definitely early 2000 or late
Okay,
90s.
yeah. So it had the musical score for
It was
that, so.
after Evangelion, and that will come into play in a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, let me try to do the plot.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
try.
good.
I need to try to parse this plot through since there is so much occurring. What it felt like watching just the 6 episodes was a team of animators gang me up into a corner and started just smacking that shit out of me. Like, yeah, you like that? You like that? And then every so often they'd give me a little kiss on the forehead.
Whoa.
A little kiss. No, it's what it felt like. Like, yeah, you like that? Then smack me around. It was very aggressive. It was like a roller coaster of animation. But I'll do my best to parse this out. So, we start out with our boy, Nauta at the beginning, hanging out with this older broad named Mamimi.
Yes.
Mamimi.
Older broad.
She's an older broad. So she's in high school and he's in more of a middle school type place. He's 12, right? I think they say that a lot. And I'm going to call him Takun for the rest since, this Mamimi chick calls him that all the time. And that is because she is like beyond down to fuck his older brother, Tatsuku, who is playing baseball in America. So I get it. So she thinks like she's his girlfriend, even though that he's got a girlfriend in America. So that's kind of a hard pill to swallow a little bit. But where all the story starts out is, she's macking hard on Takun. It's a little bit weird. It's an age difference. It's a coming of age story. You're going to have a little bit of coming. That's how it's going to be. And then out of nowhere, this random pink-haired chick on a Vespa swings her bass guitar and lands a fat dinger on Takun's head. And he sprouts a fucking horn. Turns out the horn is because Takun has the right kind of head, and air quotes, to be able to do something, making something called an NO channel. Now, I didn't actually understand what the NO channel was, so I actually had to go look it up a little bit because they flew by that explanation. But what it is it's the ability to use both sides of the brain to transport shit and energy from intergalactical distances away and use your head. So that horn wasn't a horn. It was, at the end of the day, a robot or various other objects that would come out of his brain. And turns out the Vespa rider is named Haruka Haruhara?
Hara.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like when she talks.
She is some extraterrestrial nutcase trying to harness the power of NO and Taku's top shelf head to find a space pirate. And that's really the whole crux of it. Seriously, that's the whole crux of it, man. And I loved it. And, I'm a huge, animation nerd. And the animation for the time period was absolutely stunning. It was gorgeous. It was top notch. And there are parts in it that felt like it was CGI, but it wasn't quite CGI.
I think it's your Shakugo.
Yeah, Sakuga.
Sakuga.
God, I have meltdowns.
By the way,
Sakuga.
and this is completely aside to everything you're talking about. I just wanted to give you mad props on a joke you made in
Can you call back?
in episode 1 where you talk about in Province Neverland. You said sock shoe go. My goodness, was that a good banger of a
Sock
joke?
Shuga? Good stuff, right?
Yeah,
Because it is. Because that's frame by frame drawn, beautifully, meticulously animated. That's
shoes.
Shoes.
Sock shoe go. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Give him some freaking kickbacks for that.
That's a kickback call. We're getting some kickbacks from freaking Clarks. The maker of the most durable shoe ever. I'm still waiting on that check, Clarks. But anyway, yeah. So there was moments that felt that the Sakuga, the animation was so good that if you weren't paying quite enough attention, you would believe it's good CGI, which is a testament to those animators. So the studio is Project IG, or Production IG.
Isn't it Gynex?
Gynex was the producers, but the studio was Production IG, which did Attack on Titan, Psychopaths, Evangelion, and they're tied with the production studio Gainax, who does the production work for the animation studio Production IG. Okay. And that's a good thing you bring it up, because every time I saw a show that had Production IG, the counterpart was Gainax, you called it? Yeah. So they were always like almost like distributors or final cutting, or I don't know what a production studio does in terms of an animation studio or how they work together.
It kind of seemed like they were the production studio, and maybe that Production IG team was like
the animation squad,
right,
you know.
Maybe.
So I can see that, but you can see in all their in their shows that came after, like all of the stuff that they did.
Gurren Lagann is also.
Yes, and you can tell in like the character models and the faces and the way they do the actual character designs. They almost have a signature, and you can see that origin in Fooly Cooly, which was awesome. I love seeing that. It's like, oh, that looks like that character. Well, no wonder, because that same animation squad was doing it.
So when you look at Evangelion and Fooly Cooly, I think you can see a lot of like future shows. You'll see like all these characters that look a lot like those two.
Yeah, it was great.
From what I was seeing, those were some of their bigger like early on animation attempts. So it makes a lot of sense that you'll see like similar art afterwards.
Evangelion came before, yeah. So they got their chops out, right, and really like kind of laid the groundwork for that company, those two companies exactly, for basically anything they had to come after, and they started flexing on Fooly Cooly, I think, in a good way, and you can see how they.
How'd you feel about I think so. There's a lot of things that people, when they watch the show for the first, second, fifth time, talk about, like symbolism. Mm-hmm. Like, did you get like from the rip the coming of age type deal?
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. It's funny that you said that it was a coming of age story. That really put my brain into thinking, what about this show? Kind of screams teenage angst. And
did I say that, by the way?
I think you either off mic or something, but you said it's like a coming of age story.
I did. I know.
So I feel like, okay, cool. That's super cool that they have something like that. So things that played into that, which I think were really brilliant. One, the pillows. It's an angsty punk rock soundtrack that really, at first, I was like, first couple episodes, there are moments where you feel like a slower soundtrack would have worked better for some scenes.
Sure.
So I feel like when the soundtrack hits, it hits so hard and so beautifully for the scenery that it's have like action-y or weird like teenage interactions that you almost kind of bring yourself back to those teenage days of, kind of like Blink-182, Green Day, angst. And I don't know if that kind of ages us a little bit, but that's the music we were listening to in like middle and high school, was that kind of thing. But when
I'm so sorry,
and I'm so sorry. Yeah, that kind of dad, mom, girl. But yeah, so that kind of angst is like on full display in terms of the audio visual kind of interaction. But the other thing is, I noticed that when it didn't miss sometimes. There were parts that felt that it was supposed to feel very somber. Mamimi was feeling a little bit lonely now. I think
all of the scenes with Mamimi hit me hard.
They hit you hard?
Well, like from a not depression standpoint, but from like a somber standpoint. Mm-hmm. In all of those scenes, they always have like a really dark kind of.
It felt grungier. It felt grungy.
She's under a bridge.
Sound.
She's literally under a bridge.
Yeah.
She's like, and this is like a Japanese question. All those like freaking waterways that are always in shows, like, do those exist? Because they're constantly at them in anime.
If you see pics of like Japan and big prefectures, they're running through them like crazy. That exact look and feel of like the slope down.
Yeah, they just seem like such like focal points for like the community, but I can't imagine that's true in real life.
I'm willing to bet my lunch it probably is.
Okay,
I mean, never been. I'm no Japanese fella, but I have seen pictures in real life of those waterways. So it might be. I think it's in more dense parts of cities. They always seem to be just in the outskirts of a really dense part of a city.
Right.
So
anyway, sorry.
But you're good.
Yeah. So she's always down in the valley by herself or on a bridge over the water, kind of like in a somber mood, like kind of. I wouldn't say like suicidal, but sometimes kind of
It had a
is.
weird air of that, and it's.
But I think you see that a lot in like teenagers of that age, or like first heartbreak, for instance. Like that's kind of what she was feeling.
That was her. Those 6 episodes were her journey of realizing. Because in the first episode, the last shot of that first episode was a postcard from Tatsuku with her American girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she kind of does find out later, and then she has to like reconcile with understanding that like, oh, you know, it's a high schooler thinking that, oh, my boyfriend's playing baseball in America, but you never really were his girlfriend. Sorry, girl. Like, and that's the kind of things that goes on in like a teenage girl or even guy's head. Like, you kind of fool yourself into believing there's a first love. It's fleeting. It had a really. I don't know how you can even articulate how well it really nails. It's definitely the sum is greater than the whole of its part. Like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Excuse me. Like once everything came together, no one part made. Oh yeah, this helped. But once it all came together, you're like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah, I think
feeling,
there were so many, parts throughout, little scenes that really, I think everyone's felt similarly. Like there's a scene where his dad is macking on Haruka.
Oh,
and
dude.
He like has a dream or something like that, and in his dream he kills his father.
Yeah.
So it's like
I wanted to punch Kamon. Is that his dad's name?
I can't remember his name.
Kamon. I wanted to punch Taku's dad square in his fucking stupid face. That was mean. That's mean.
But what I'm saying is, like, I'm sure everyone has experienced like this. The person you're pining after ends up with somebody else, and you're like, I freaking hate that. I want
to punch him square in the face. Yeah, but it's your dad, dude.
Well, and then he has to deal with the repercussions in his dream of killing him. So he's like,
right.
oh crap, I didn't mean it, like that kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that was cool because it really showed, like, when you're in that age, like 12 to 15 range, like doing things like that, you kind of forget that they're permanent. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, the permanence of a decision is hard to understand when you're young.
That's a really good way to put it, because I think for me, the biggest dichotomy in this show was this dichotomy of trying to find balance between free will and childhood innocence and the ability to do what you want to do in the moment you feel like you want to do it, and responsibility and self-control and order versus chaos. It had a lot of really cool dichotomies, and I think trying to understand what NO was, like the NO channel, the big line they had was when you are able to use both sides of your brain in balance. And I think the whole show was about two sides. One side was the adulthood, the responsibility of its perception from a teenager is that it's, you feel like almost mechanical. It's perfectly doing what you're supposed to do, responsibility, no free will. And that's what medical mechanica, I guess that was what they called.
Yeah.
Medical mechanica. And they thought it was just the factory, and it represented what it actually was. And spoilers, it was an alien organization that goes around flattening planets, and as they put it in the show, ironing out, hold on, I got the quote, it's ironing out the wrinkles in your brain so you can't think. That was the whole point, the elimination of free will and free thinking. Whereas the other side is Haruko, she's this representation of what happens when you are too much on the other side. Complete free will. She was like a force of nature.
Right.
But a lot of what she did was destructive and ultimately in vain in her goal. So without a little bit of responsibility and taking responsibility for her actions, she caused a lot of strife for everyone else. She said what she wanted to. She did what she wanted to. She fucked what she wanted to. And she just did what she wanted to, and it caused a lot of strife for a lot of people. She didn't understand the repercussions of what she was doing the same way Takun in his dream didn't understand the repercussions of acting on his own free will. So the show is about balance as you grow. And that's why Takun was such a good main character, because she said your brain is so good, and I think it's because he has, by the end, found a proper balance between, childhood innocence and free will, but also understanding what it takes to be a mature adult and take responsibility for your actions. So
if by any chance there's any younger kids out there listening to this, please do not rush, growing up.
Oh yeah.
When you get to like our age, we're not even that old, but like the difference between like having to pay bills and
Right.
then just going outside and having fun with your friends when you're younger.
Yeah.
Like it is draining in a lot of ways.
Right, but I think when it comes to growing up, it's just the dichotomies get wider. The fun times you can have as an adult are a lot more cool, but also the responsibility of achieving those is a lot more great. So you have to.
So this is actually a point I was gonna make. I think, when you're younger, some of the emotions you feel,
Mhm.
like for instance, when you face heartbreak when you're young, like say you're still in middle school, it feels like the world is ending. Now when you're 35, 40 and you experience it again, that feels like the world is ending, and the heartbreak you experienced when you're 12 feels like it was nothing.
Oh yeah, and I think it's important.
Right. So like every feeling is important to whatever age range you are, right? To the present you. But I think what this show does really well, like for Mamimi, she's like basically goes suicidal just because
Oh yeah,
his brother went to America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't even like all that together.
No,
But
they weren't.
to her, it was like the most significant thing that has happened. You know what I mean?
I think that's I couldn't have put it better. I think you shouldn't compare like pain,
grief.
You shouldn't compare
whatever.
grief, loss, pain, because it's all relative, And to anyone who's older out there, maybe you have kids, maybe you don't, don't
Papa.
Papa, hi. Don't. I would say this show kind of does the same thing on the other side of the coin. Is that don't belittle the problems of those that are much younger and to you seem so much smaller, because you were there at one point. You felt the same strife. It felt the same way, and it had the same weight. All they have known up to that point, like the worst thing that's ever happened to somebody at 16 is certainly not going to be the same worst thing that's ever happened to someone at 40. Not every case is the same, and there are obviously exceptions to that rule, but this show is so beautifully illustrating the kinds of things that are like, you have a heartbreak at 12 that shouldn't make it any less important for you to feel that or to get help or support because you're feeling that now, even though a heartbreak at 40 of the same vein may be way more crushing.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things, but the grand scheme for one person is totally not the grand scheme of another, and you can be the same age. So,
but I do think it is important if you're that older, shoulder to cry on type thing to like, I don't know how you like impress upon kids that, you will survive this.
Yeah.
Like that's, I think, sort of the crux of what the show was.
Right.
It's like bonkers shit will happen your entire life, and guess what? You can keep on chugging type thing.
It really is insane at how, and there's nothing in the show that you can point to that there are some scenes that definitely had that. I think the dream sequence of him killing his dad was very potent.
It was pretty visceral.
It was pretty visceral, but I mean but it was not just that. It was what came after. He was like, "Oh no! I didn't. Okay,
Right.
He now sees repercussions. His grand scheme got grander, you know.
Right.
So
kind of perspective for him.
Yeah. So it's all about perspective. To those of you that are younger, your perspective will grow. It's not about the end of the world. It's because Ethan and I have both failed plenty of shit, and we're right here.
Guys,
yeah, and we're sitting in his apartment.
Your boy's a massive failure a lot of times.
We're failures, is what we're trying to get at. And to people that are older, like,
we're out here still trying to get it, though.
we're trying to get some of those kickbacks. But no, some people that are older, by relate. Treat younger folk with like as if they were adults, and the things they're going through are all on the same level. And I think that they'll find a lot more solace. You know what? Good. We are linguistes. Who cares? I don't know what we are linguistes. Yeah.
So I think we've kind of covered what the show is about and stuff like that. But now I want to kind of go into some like not trivia, but like some cool things about the show.
Yeah.
So first of all, the entire show was basically just like what the director thought was dope. He put anything in there that he thought was cool.
And you know it too. Like you
Yeah.
could, as you're watching it, you're like, oh, that scene never needed to be in here at all. But my goodness, it was.
So
fun.
I'll tell you 2 things I heard recently
Yeah.
in doing research. Number 1, the robot was not originally in it.
What was his original Shanty or
It was not going to be anything.
the TV robot?
Yeah.
He was one of my favorite characters.
They just he threw him in there, and everyone actually was really not happy with it. They're like, "We don't want the robot," and he goes, "I don't care, put him in." So
I don't care. This is my show.
right, so the robot was not originally in there, and he throws it in. Then also, the director from Evangelion,
Okay.
his name is Miyu or something like that,
Sounds rad.
plays the cat
No way.
voice actor.
The little cat, the one that's always around, the little black
Yes.
one. I love him.
So the most famous person they have in the entire show is the cat. And then all the other voice actors were complete nobodies at the time.
That's rad.
I know.
That's awesome. Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, so like this show is sick. Like,
I couldn't be more happy. I think one
there's
of my
also a few more little goodies when you're done.
Hit me.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm in it for the goodies, dude.
So in episode 1, they do a manga panel. It's like a live action manga panel type deal.
that was
So-
one of my favorite parts. And at the very end of the show, they're like, "We gotta stop this. Where this is too exhausting to do a manga panel."
Yeah, so that's actually in the first episode. They break the fourth wall and they say, "Wow, this sucked. We should never do it again." And he liked it so much, and his team was begging him not to do it again. And in the 6th episode, he goes, "Guys, we're doing a manga
We're
panel."
doing it again. They could tell everyone that was doing it was like, "Whoa, we gotta stop this. This
Like,
is
no.
exhausting. This is dumb."
So those 2 scenes cost more than the rest of it all together, apparently.
Get out for real.
That's what they said.
Wow. I can't imagine why. You know?
I think it's just because of how much art time had to go into it, because then they had to like redraw those pages over and over again to get them to animate.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I guess it was before newer computer
Right.
techniques can be applied where, okay, all right, I see it now. It was worth it because it was funny.
Yeah, it was cool
It
and
was really,
funny.
really funny because that callback was one of the best callbacks ever.
Yeah.
When they were already like, "Let's please never do this again." And then they do it again. And they're like, "Why are we doing this again? Why are we here again?" And then at the very end, one of my favorite parts is like, "Oh yeah, do you know what Fooly Cooly means now?" No one knew.
Exactly. So this is another kind of little tidbit. And a lot of this information I saw from Aki Dearest on YouTube.
Okay.
Anyway, she's got
Shout
like
out.
2 million subscribers.
Shout out. Damn.
Yeah.
All right.
So she, this actually might have been Mother's Basement that has this little tidbit in there.
Also wouldn't surprise me.
Basically, there was an interview where they were talking to the director and they said, "Hey man, what's this about?" Because everyone's, confused and like trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And the director basically says, "It's okay if you don't understand." And he like literally leaves it at that.
That was his whole
Basically,
explanation.
He's like saying, enjoy the show, and like if you find something out about it, like good for you, but like I just want you to enjoy the show.
So I'll tell you what I think FLCL means. Fooly Cooly means. That I noticed when like
Furry Curry.
Furry Cooly, when the dad and other people would describe like necking or doing like sexual stuff with each other, they'd go, Fooly Cooly or goody goody or like cootie cootie. Like they would make those noises. Like I wish she would goody goody me all over. And I was at the very end, it hit me like, so was Fooly Cooly just like a sexual automatopoeia that like he had just kind of tossed in there as like a sound or just kind of like a character representation of like necking or something like that?
So from what I understand, the words are similar to the words for breast fondling in Japanese, but it has no actual, like, that's not right.
It's just okay. So is there kind of an implicit social connection to it? Like
I honestly don't think there is literally any real definition to what Fooly Cooly is, Furry Curry, whatever you want to call it.
That's
I think
so
the
rad.
show is literally just about enjoying what is blasted upon you.
So
for 6 episodes.
And what you've just told me, which I'm taking as canon, which is titties. Titty fondling. So enjoy getting blasted with titty fondling.
I guess.
Wow, the show rips, dude. This put it in a whole new light.
Yeah, so I mean, I really enjoyed the show, and I'm glad that you seem to have enjoyed it as well.
I really did, man. And then, like I said, if pitch it or ditch it, it's definitely a hard pitch for those that have seen a couple anime before. It definitely feels like something that is a cornerstone of the genre. You know, people that it kind of had passed me by, because I guess back in those days I was very you know, I was very shonen based. Like I wasn't really branching out. I was a kid. I was only like 9 or 10, but I was like, you know, real deep for, you know, Dragon Ball and, you know, like at the time like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. So I mean, like light, what you'd imagine a kid my age would be watching, like light anime about, and that kind of just passed by. So it was great that you suggested it, because even just watching it, I recognized, oh wow, this is definitely a pillar show.
Yeah,
of the
I think
community.
from what I've seen, a lot of people our age probably like their kind of first forays into anime was Fooly Cooly on Adult Swim.
That's rad.
Right. And so I think, you know, it's more of a cult classic, kind of people our age will all kind of, not all have seen it on Adult Swim, but I recall it being on. Like I'd see FLCl like up next, and I'm like, what the
really?
heck is that? Type
That's cool.
Deal. You know, if I'm watching like Bleach or something, or like Inuyasha,
Yes. So
you know, that kind of deal.
I can totally see it, and it definitely, I think it's something that is on, if you're more than a beginner and you're really trying to flesh out the things you know you should be watching, 6 episodes, it'll take you less than an afternoon, and it's an animation roller coaster. You will not be disappointed.
So how many Vespa Scooters out of Vespa Scooters was that?
I would give it let's see, 8.8 out of 10 Vespa Scooters.
Wow.
It was high up there. I think in terms of a show,
You gave a GTO a 92 out of 100.
I
just
did.
so you know.
I did. And I know. I'm saying I'm giving this an 87 out of Hundo Vespas, because I think the length was substantial. I'm putting it in terms of pitching it to the general anime community, to those that have never seen it. You know,
To the uninitiated.
Yeah, it's the uninitiated. So I think GTO is a lot more pitchable because it's a lot more grounded. And if someone hasn't seen a lot of anime before, you can at least wrap your head around that. I have seen a lot of anime, and it took me a while to wrap my head around that, you know, that minefield of colors and shapes. It was crazy. But, you know, like I said, so I think if you've seen a couple anime before, or even more than several, and you watch it, you'll have a good time. You'll have a really good time. So
Awesome. I'm
87 out
super
of 100,
happy to hear that.
87 out of 100 Vespos. So
I am super happy to hear that.
now let's take
And it was short.
it
which
was
is
short.
even better.
Yeah, it was a flashbang.
Right.
It was a flashbang. So
Flash in the pan, as they say.
flash in the pan. It was another euphemism for quick thing. I don't know. I'll come up with a word.
It was a hare.
It was it was
You know,
a
those really
hare.
fast rabbits.
Yeah, it felt like that. If you've ever been to Top Thrill Dragster in Cedar Point, Sandusky,
Oh
Ohio,
my
United States of America, over in 12 seconds, but it'll blow your fucking hair back. Anywho's it?
So the next part was what I was pitched.
Let's go forward in time about 15 years.
Yeah, to Made in Abyss.
Oh, goodness.
From 2016, I believe.
I think it was 16 or early 17, somewhere
I think
around
it
there.
won in 2017. That
Yeah,
award,
it came out late
so
2016.
It came out in
Yeah.
16.
Okay.
So I'll do my best for a little plot, but I think it's not as difficult to understand
No,
as
you can really-
Fooly Cooly.
Yeah.
So basically there's the idea of the abyss getting there was a little hard for me to understand, but that's not really the point. Basically,
Right.
This is like kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of world, it seemed like. So basically there's this massive hole that just opens up in the middle of this island chain in the South Pacific or something like that, I think they said.
Yep. They say it opened up. It looked very crater-esque, which was something I always found really interesting. If you look, it had like a ridge.
Right.
From a displacement ridge. So
Like I'm saying, the portion about it being created was a little bit,
I think that was kind of the whole point.
yeah, which obviously they didn't know how it was created either. But the point is, there's been these group of cave raiders, is what they're calling themselves, that basically go down into the abyss and look for like ancient treasures, which is basically like stuff that we would have, or like, you know, maybe a little past our time. So This is like very far in the future, but also post-apocalyptic.
I can't tell if for me, it always felt like kind of like an alien aggressively sent care package. Like an alien race just whipped it into the planet super hard, and it's got a bunch of goodies on it, but it's like, oops, dialed that up a little too high.
Oopsie. Yeah, so basically, these cave raiders will go down through these different levels. I think there's like 7 or 8.
I want to say there's 7. Yeah.
I have it in my hand. I'll quickly look.
Do you got the whole map?
I do.
That's dope. So
there is 7 layers, and then there is a deepest point. I don't know
there
if
it
that
is.
is.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like just the bottom, or just an unknown bottom, I guess they call whatever they haven't discovered yet. So 7, we'll call it 7 plus. 7 at least.
And the 7th layer is called the final maelstrom, so...
Which sounds so metal.
I mean, that's
so
metal.
rad.
Anyway,
hey, Patbot, insert a metal guitar lick here.
Self-shredded.
Self-shredded, dude.
Yeah, so basically the idea is they're going down into the abyss to find these like treasures and stuff, and there's like various different apparently nations that are fighting over it. But this one group of sovereign kings is what they're calling them, or something like that, is from this city Orth.
Love
and
that.
They have like basically monopolized the abyss. There's like different sovereigns of like Ozin the Unmovable, Liza the Annihilator,
so that's
Benton Hold or something like that. The
right.
douchey.
The
anyway,
douchey.
So Orth has basically monopolized the ability to go into the abyss and like look around and eat things and do all that shit. And the story follows Riku.
I think it's Rico.
I don't know. This little like 10 or 11-year-old girl who just got her red whistle.
So tell me about these whistles.
So there's basically the better you are at cave diving and the more experience you have, you go through like different levels of whistle. There's like I think the lowest one is red.
Red is what you get as a kid and allows you to go on like the first layer,
right?
Like the little.
Then
the
blue, which lets you go down to like the second level or something.
So if you're
moon color, which was purple.
I think it was purple or gray, and then there was a purple one or like a black one at some point.
Black whistle was after that. And then
okay.
the top of the top was the white whistles. And there's only a certain amount of those, and they're the guys that are called the sovereigns.
Mm-hmm.
So the story goes that basically a balloon comes up from the very deepest part of the abyss that says like has a bunch of information from Liza, Riku's mom, that says basically, come find me, I'm at the bottom.
Now I got a question for you though. Why wouldn't she just come up herself?
Right. So the idea with the abyss is a little different than what you had originally told me.
Really?
You said you could go down with no problem, but coming up was the problem.
That's what I thought the curse was.
So the curse it compounds as you go down. But you still have to be extremely strong and like your stamina. It seemed like there was still effects going downwards.
My understanding was just you, because just the strain of traveling downward, like physically, like if imagine we're in a curse, just a hole, you know?
Yeah, but she was like barfing and shit like that. So I think potentially she just wasn't strong enough yet.
Okay.
So you might be right. But basically the idea is you can go down relatively unscathed, but when you come back up, you accrue curses from that level of the abyss.
Mm-hmm. And the deeper you go, the much worse they get.
Yeah, the most insane curses start to happen down in like the 5th range.
Yeah. So there'd be people that, it was understood that there was legends of people that would go down and would never come up, and you would never really know, because our understanding is going down's fine, coming up sucks. So every step in a descent incurs a greater risk.
Right.
I love that mechanic of just like a fantasy world, because it makes the very nature of exploration there's another layer of risk to it. It isn't about where you're going and the dangers that are there. It's literally the journey can be dangerous as well. That is, I don't know. I fell in love with that idea, is because that you can be a suicide mission and find out for yourself, but you can never tell anybody. And the balloons were never a guarantee, obviously, as you saw, literal weather patterns down in later ones, but
Right. So what's cool about each of these layers is they're basically like their own biomes.
I
So
love that.
what I found really interesting, when you go below the first layer, you basically, it looks dark from up top, but then when you pass down to the second layer, it's actually bright as hell.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this like interesting force field between each of the layers, which we're told is basically what is causing this curse.
Right. It's just kind of like an antimatter almost, this thing in the air that just
Right.
kind of is a new place.
Because we find out that there's certain areas, or the farther away from the epicenter is like less affected by the curses. So there could also be just like small little chasms or something like that where the curse doesn't affect you at all,
I love that.
which you find in Anichi's house.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
basically,
Bloom comes up.
you did a very good job of pitching it to me.
Oh, thank you.
This was a show that I knew I had to watch eventually. Everyone was, losing their freaking gourds over it.
Oh, dude.
Back in 2016.
Dude, I haven't found my gourd in 3 years. I
Or
lost
17.
it. I lost it a long time ago when I saw that show. And
So, I knew I had to watch it, but it was one of those things that just pass you by. Actually, I did watch the first episode, and this was before my religion of 3 days when I could just, quit any show on one episode if I felt like it.
now Ethan is quite the thrice prophet. He
I
is
am the rice prophet.
the rice prophet of thrice.
Thrice the prophet. Thrice the prophet. Thrice the prophet.
I love it.
So basically, I think what originally did kind of deter me from continuing was the art style. Honestly,
Okay.
of the humans, I'm not a fan of the like bobblehead chibi looking like main characters and all the kids.
They almost look like pop figurines.
Right.
Like they really do. But to the art's credit, I think it was done because of the art director. The art director, I looked it up. It was Osamu Masuyama. And
Osama bin Laden.
Oh no, we found him. We found him for reals. No, he
We got the bitch.
because what always impressed me was the background. The settings were so
gorgeous.
intricate. It was masterclass. I'm like, who is this dude? And this Masuyama guy, I looked at his credentials. He is the art director or producer for Made in Abyss and a show you just watched.
Puella Magi.
Madoka Magica?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the art director on that one too.
Huh. Same
Yeah.
kind of
If you can kind of feel that same vibe. And
chibi looking jork.
right, but he was specifically the lead background artist on Ponyo, Howl's Moving Castle, and Spirited Away. That, and then it's like,
It does
click,
look very Miyazaki-esque.
click. Yeah. So he is snuggled very safely into the Ghibli Studios pocket.
Right.
But he also, that's where he got all he was recognized there. So if you wonder why it had that feel, it was after he was an art director of Madoka Magica, and then he brought all of his background expertise and then everything he learned as an art director on that show and smashed it together in terms of art style for Made in Abyss. So it kind of makes sense. I get why it wouldn't be everyone's fave art style. It is a little bit, I don't know. Cutesy's not the right word for it. What would you, I guess, what about is it just not your favorite art style? It's not very edgy, or I don't know.
I mean, it's just like a lack of immersion when you have these people that don't look like humans to me.
That's fair. Yeah. So I mean, just to piggyback off of the plot, you said, I didn't mean to cut you off or nothing, but I will speak for you.
But you did cut me off. And don't speak for me.
No, how dare you? You already said this once.
I'm sorry. Don't ever speak for me. It was so awkward, dude.
How dare you speak for me? So
Never speak for my schedule.
is that what he actually said?
Do you understand? I was like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, that being said, Ethan's free all next week. So Bloom comes up. And we said it's from Liza.
Right, so she sends her white whistle with it. So it does. It basically stamps who it's from.
Right. Now, isn't that almost seems also like a resignation that you're staying, right?
So from what we've heard, you cannot go to the lower levels and come back.
It isn't at all. It doesn't matter.
It does not happen.
Right. So
the lowest level we've heard someone come back from is 4 or 5.
Right.
And that is, interestingly, where Riko finds her beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow Liza falls in love with some little dork and has a kid down in the 4th or 5th level.
Some abyss dork. This abysmal
I'm sorry,
dork.
Liza's
Nate.
banging, and the dude she makes
Can
a
we
child with
please
is a
talk
dork.
about Liza right
No,
quick?
no, we
Oh,
can't.
I'm gonna. After you give the plot. I'm gonna talk about her. My
So
favorite.
somehow she has this kid in the abyss.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as we know, this is the first kid ever born in the abyss. And it actually is stillborn. So Riku is born stillborn. But
It's intense.
2 of the sovereigns are there. The sovereign of annihilation, which is Liza, and then the sovereign the unmovable, which is Ozen, who is my favorite character in the show by a bajillion%.
Hell yeah.
So they have this national treasure grade, treasure item they found.
Right.
That basically you can open it and put dead things in it, and they'll like reanimate essentially.
That's insane.
So they're in the 5th level or 4th or 5th level. They put the dead baby in there to dispose of later, and it ends up crying. And so they're like, "Oh shit, this kid's alive."
What do we do?
So they decide they have to bring it up to the surface world, or else obviously the child will never survive down in the 5th realm.
Can't. Just absolutely can't.
So Ozen and Liza carry this massive freaking
It's like the size of like a Prius. It's huge.
it's like a big ass white cinder block.
It's like it's literally like a piece of concrete looking thing,
and they carry it themselves all the way up to Orth, which is like, I think, let me see. So from the 5th layer is 13,000 meters deep.
and that's not foot traffic, y'all. That's just from the top straight to the bottom. So they had to travel on foot up that,
Right,
not
15,000 feet, and that's like with ropes and like.
That's insane,
So-
man.
Her origin story is actually bonkers.
Yeah.
So I think what I thought would have been cool is if basically you incur the curses going down, or
Right.
like going back up, but if you also you're shown the strain of going down is like hurts you. And also, obviously, the strain of talking about this hurts me.
It does. I can see
Because
it.
I cannot.
You can't
does
see
not
it.
compute.
He's weeping right now.
I'm weak in the knees.
He's weak in the knees.
So basically, what I thought would have been a sick mechanic of Riku, who, as far as we know, is the only child born in the abyss, is if as she gets closer to where she was born, down in the 5th level, she was actually becoming stronger, or like wasn't being affected at all the farther she goes down. Because from what they explain, the beginning couple of years of her life, she was like sick all the time because she was born in the abyss, and now she's out of the abyss because she went up.
Yeah, so she's basically, you're saying she's out of her element. So what happens when you put her back in her element?
So I was hoping there would be some kind of like, coming back home type deal where she was getting stronger or less like affected as she was getting closer to the 5th level.
Oh my gosh. So that would have been a cool mechanic, but I think that would be counteracting the main character dichotomy of the story. You want to talk about Reg right quick? Reg.
Yeah, so
So hold on. Time, just quick. I'm saying it. Liza is my kind of fucking girl, dude. She is my favorite.
she's the annihilator.
Dude, I wrote it down. She is the puncher of lights, the drinker of flights, and the exciter of nights. She parties, she fights, she drinks. She is my girl. I'm gonna drink a little bit to her because Liza, you really are.
He literally
You
just
really are the
cheersed.
perfect woman. You really are
He
the
says
perfect woman.
Kenpai.
Kenpai. You are the perfect woman.
Japanese for cheers, in case anyone's wondering.
Yep. So, but close second, Ozen the Immovable. Awesome character design. Crazy old, crazy strong, crazy tall.
She was my favorite by absolute far.
She was so cold too, dude. She was just very cold, but in the best kind of way. But yeah, so let's talk about Reg real quick. So I wanted to talk about Rico and Reg. Is their relationship, like why I think that's one of the strongest points in the entire show. But who was Reg? Where the hell did he come from?
Basically, did he come? So in the first episode, she's down in the first realm,
Yeah.
the first layer,
Mhm.
first realm, and she is attacked by this.
Corpse weeper.
It was something like
I got it written down.
Wielder.
It's my favorite. It's the corpse weeper because it's terrifying because it's found as high as like the first or second layer. They can be massive. They're like kind of half doggish or ferretish, half bird. They're super strong, but their crux of why they're so dangerous is because these creatures can mimic human cries to lure other people into their space to get more food. And if it's mating season, they'll do it in packs. That is terrifying to me, and their design was so good. So,
oh yeah, they were gorgeous creatures.
They were cool looking. I love the design of those creatures. So
basically, in the first episode, she gets attacked with one of her little friendos down there, Nat, I think.
R.I.P.
He doesn't die.
Is he not?
No.
No, I thought the corpse sweeper was eating someone.
He was eating someone, but I don't think it was him.
Oh, okay.
Anywho, so they get attacked, and they get saved by this little robot boy. She names Reg.
Yeah.
So later on, we find out that he's like a national treasure, basically from down in the abyss.
He's like top grade treasure.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's actually they call him a Baldine or something like that.
Yeah, just basically a hybrid of what?
It kind of seems like he's an android.
I think it's what he
has human parts.
Oh, he's got human parts.
And they talk about his penis constantly.
They talk about his dick a lot. He's like a 10-year-old boy.
Now, here's my problem with the show.
You got problems with it? Yeah.
So, honestly, love the show. There is absolutely no necessity to continually have Rico naked, talk about Reg's D, and then like start talking about things like that. They're supposed to be sub 10, sub 11.
Right.
So, like, I understand it's supposed to be like, oh, it's innocent because they're so young, it doesn't matter. But I promise you, they're making it seem like it isn't innocent, and it's annoying as hell to me.
So at first I was like, guys, come on. They're just kids. They're literally just curious. They're honestly super innocent about it. There wasn't a piece of sexualization in there. But yet, the more I thought about it, the more you were right that it did feel that way.
Of course I'm right. Are you kidding me?
Oh, my God.
Dude, what are you talking about?
Don't you ever fucking speak for me.
No, but
never.
No, seriously.
Speak for me.
You were right because I looked at
Do you understand?
I do. Oh, do you understand?
That was so aggressive.
so angry. But the manga, 5 times as bad.
No,
it was dialed down to 2 from 10 for the show. And I read some articles about that. There's some Reddit threads about that too. That's like, oh, yo, like, I know it seems pretty dicey in the anime, but the manga gets really, really bad. Like, Nanachi, there's that scene where she gets rubbed up on and she gets all blushy about it. It doesn't really stop there.
Oh, no.
And no. Yeah. So, I mean, we could have had it worse. So, just the remnants of it felt weird, but I think they rode the line, at least the storyboarders for the show rode the line as best they could with what they had. So
my problem is it adds absolutely zero depth to the show in any freaking way.
I think the only thing it could possibly have done is realism, because I can see 10-year-olds not giving a fuck about if they're naked or not around another 10-year-old. I could see that. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, like, I understand that. What I'm saying is,
but not to the plot.
But
Absolutely not.
Reg was constantly like blushing about her being naked all the time, right?
So he like understood.
Right. So to me,
oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
There's absolutely nothing it is adding to the show.
They're aware. Oh,
he gets a boner in an episode.
He does get a mad bone, doesn't he? Yeah. But yeah. Okay, I get it. But the good part about their relationship, I think, is like they play off each other very, very well. They both need each other in the way they need, what they need. I mean, Reg's memory is just gone. And Rico's like encyclopedic knowledge of not just the world that he is now in, which is above the first layer, but every layer thereafter is she is like the Britannica of what they know, because she's just been studying it for so long. So while Reg may have the ability to survive the abyss, he could really, in my eyes, he can really only survive it if he has the knowledge of what he's up against when he's down there. The curse ain't a thing for him. He's a robot man.
Right.
He's a little robot boy. So he doesn't know, like, he doesn't even, the curse doesn't affect him, but the creature sure might. And if he really doesn't know, and especially because he's got that sweet arm cannon,
yeah,
but
the incinerator.
He passes the fuck out every time he uses it.
So I will say that is the coolest part of the show. Well, some of the coolest parts is that they make up for each other's weaknesses.
It's awesome. I mean,
Reg gets unaffected by the abyss, but he has like basically limits to the amount of incinerator cannons he can blast. And
Right.
then it is Rico's job on her own to basically protect both of them.
yes. And that's the thing. Nothing, I think, for me in the show felt more tense when he used that trump card and blasted their immediate threat away. But then Rico's stuck as a little human girl in one of the most dangerous places on the planet, toting around a robot boy who's not going to wake up for a couple hours.
Right. It's
That
like 2
is
whole hours.
that's intense to me, man. And then on the flip side, like I said, Rico's still human. So the curse of the abyss applies to her, and everything is primed and prepped to fuck her shit up. So Reg is her main protection, and also on a more, kind of belief level, he came from the abyss. He is the proof that
exactly.
he is her proof that there is something down there
And
worth finding.
In her mother's letters, she continually mentions seeing this little boy, and there's a picture basically that looks like Reg.
That's awesome.
So Rico's basically like, I know that my mom is still alive and she's at the bottom.
Because she knows you. She must
Right.
have seen you, but your memory's gone, so we can't make the connection. Let's go down there together to get there.
Yeah.
And see what's up. So, as much as they do kind of, even though they turn it down to 2, the whole lowly
I'm just saying
sexualization
that's
thing.
my one negative to the show.
I would say another
Okay,
negative.
my one of 2 negatives.
Okay.
The other negative is, like we talked about in the dub versus sub episode,
Yeah.
there's so much written on the freaking screen and it's so gorgeous. I don't have time to do both.
So you're feeling if they had I feel like they have a dub. I think they made a dub, but I think it's Japanese I don't know where it is. Like, I tried to look for it so I can rewatch it in dub and see what's up, and I couldn't find it. So,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't find it either. But the point is,
R.I.P.
so gorgeous, but I could barely I would only catch glimpses of this like amazing world they've built.
Yeah. For me, I felt like pacing a little bit. It got a little dicey in the Nanachi kind of section. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. It was slow.
It felt a little slow, and I think
But my God, was it sad.
it was so sad. Nanachi and was it Mitty or Mitzi? Mitty, basically.
I don't want to talk about Mitty, dude.
Oh man, that's basically these 2 girls get experimented on in a very deep level of the
by
abyss.
one of the sovereigns.
By one of the
I
sovereigns.
called douchebag.
One of the was it Broadreds or Brasred or something like that?
Dumb. I don't know.
Bitchley the douchey. That's his name.
Bitchley the douchey.
Bitchley the douchey experiments. He's probably gone a little mad by being down in the abyss for so long, but yeah. You know what? Fantastic show. It's got this a beautiful cutesy art style juxtaposed with
Bondrude.
Bondrude. What's his sovereign nickname? You got that on hand, or
Yes.
it's like the something about encyclopedia. It's something about knowledge, right?
Sovereign of Dawn.
Of Dawn.
Yes.
Huh.
He's called Bondrude the Novel.
There it is. The novel. Yeah, something about like a book or something like that. So,
He sells artifacts illicitly, developing dangerous drugs, and even experimenting on living humans.
he is the black market.
He's a jackass.
He's a jackass. So,
But I think what's really like I've said in the past, I love anything where there's like this massive group or like vaunted group called like some like headline like the White Whistles.
the White Whistles, the
It sounds
Hokages,
dorky
the
AF,
Goatee
but-
13 captains.
yeah, Dote 13.
Well, they
or-
represent the masters of their class.
Yeah,
I
the 10
like
great
that.
wizard saints.
I like all that shit. I really do. So, any final thoughts on Made in Abyss? How obvious of a pitch? Any caveats to that pitch? It sounds pretty pitchy.
I
to
think
me.
it's probably close to the 92 out of 100 corpse weepers.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. No, I mean I think as long as whoever you pitch it to isn't gonna get caught up on the like naked kids.
I think a lot of people wouldn't be too sensitive about it. I think the way they portray it is really is the best you could do while still keeping some of it in there.
I just think like for me they do so much like unnecessary. Like if you call that fan service, in my opinion, like you're messed up in the head.
It doesn't.
So,
that's the thing. It didn't feel
right,
like fan service,
I just don't know.
but it was still there.
I just don't know why. Like I don't understand. Like they had to spend time and money to actually put those scenes in the show, and to me, like realism it's not real. There's freaking corpse weepers.
and that is,
it's not like it doesn't make sense.
And
to,
let me caveat that
yeah.
by saying, that's my way of trying to make sense of it. And because I think you have to get in the mind of the mangaka, whoever wrote the original story.
Right.
You got to get into the mind of them about why. Nor would I want to. From what I heard.
Yeah. If it's worse than the manga.
A visionary for better or worse, truly.
Yeah.
I think.
But just last words on this. I loved Ozen. Leader, completely unnecessary to the plot.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
So there's basically their teacher up on the top land, who they like constantly say he's like testing them and stuff, and nothing ever comes of it. Like period. So like apparently he was the apostle or whatever of her mother, so that's why he's like
right.
preferential towards her, but unnecessary to the story. Didn't do anything. He put a little note in his pocket or something, was the only thing that ever happened.
Yeah, just read this later.
And it basically said, you've got 2 days or I'm coming for you. And
yeah,
I don't think he goes for him.
No, yeah, no.
He even goes down there.
No, he's just like, well, my work is done.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'd say it's a hard pitch.
We got a couple of pitches on our hands, I think.
We're just a couple of pitches.
We're just a couple of sassy pitches.
Yeah, I just closed so bad, plosive.
That's fine. Hope your earballs are okay.
I'll try to get Robopat to fix it in post.
We'll try. But
guys, thank you so much for listening. Our podcast is on, iTunes, freaking Spotify, freaking YouTube.
We're hitting the ground running.
Stitcher.
Now. Yes, we're really getting it out there now. 5 stars really do help us out. It
and
means
if you
a lot.
could leave us a word review as well, that would be.
Oh yeah, you can even write a script for your own anime, and we'll talk about it. If you feel like you got something really spicy. But yeah, 5 stars. We do use those. I got bad ankles, and I don't. Dr. Scholl's, Dr. Stars. Yeah. I put 5-star reviews in my souls, and you guys keep me off the ground. They really do.
Yep, I inject it because I have a sugar deficiency and an iron deficiency, and turns out stars are iron and sugar.
And nothing sweeter than 5 stars, dude. Nothing sweeter.
So, hey, we really appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming to class.
And thank you so much for coming to class.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been Ethan.
I've been Ricky.
And we'll see you fudging later.
We'll see you later. Learnt, turnt, and burnt. Deuces.
Deuces.
Pieces. We'll decide on one later.